Well, hello everyone and welcome. Welcome to this live telephone town hall meeting that we have for you tonight. Looks like we have a couple of folks on the line with us right now. We want to thank you so much for joining us here early for this live City of Arlington telephone town hall meeting. And we will be joined here by many of your city council members in just a moment. But before I do turn it over, I want to go through this introduction a couple of times while we connect to more and more of your neighbors to the call. So if you just joined us in the last minute here, welcome. You are joining us here for this live City of Arlington telephone town hall meeting where your council members will be updating you as well as answering your questions. So with that being said, if you have any questions, please press 0 to submit that to an operator at any time. You'll have the opportunity tonight to ask your questions live during this forum. However, if you're not comfortable asking it live, you can always let your operator know that you would prefer me to read that over the air for you. Of course, we prefer to hear from you, but again, go ahead and press 0 to submit your questions for Q&A. You can do that right now or at any point throughout tonight's call. Another option we have for you tonight is to press 7 on your phone keypad to receive future email updates from the city. So pressing 7 is going to take you to another operator. They can take down your best email address, and we will be sure to keep you updated electronically moving forward. So again, press 0 to submit a question for Q&A, and please press 7 if you would like to get email updates from the city. Now we're going to go ahead and get started here shortly, folks. During tonight's call, we will be sharing a lot of important information for you. So I'm going to tell you now that you may want to grab a pen and paper to take some notes. Another reminder for those of you who may have just joined us on the line in the last couple minutes here, we will first hear from York City Council members who are here with us on the line to share some updates for you. Now, as you're listening into those updates, please be thinking of questions that you would like to submit for Q&A. When you have a question ready, please press 0 to speak with an operator to submit your question. We will be taking your questions live. However, if you'd rather not go live, please just let your operator know that you would like us to read that over the air. So either way, still press 0. Again, you can still press 7 on your phone keypad as well at any time tonight to receive future email updates from the city. Our operators will take down some information from you, and the city will then keep you updated electronically moving forward. And we will be, again, just announcing some important information throughout tonight's call, so consider grabbing that pen and paper now. And we really do appreciate everybody's time tonight. So without further ado, I would like to officially get this call started off by turning it over to Councilmember Victoria Farrar-Myers. Victoria, please go ahead.
Well, good evening and welcome everyone to our town hall meeting concerning residential infill, development, and redevelopment tools for creating a greater range of housing choices here and develop attainable neighborhoods across the American Dream City. My name again is Victoria Farrar-Myers. I'm your at-large city councilwoman representing District 7, and I've had the honor of serving as Mayor Pro Tem for the last 2 years. It's been my honor to serve you, and I will soon be saying goodbye on May 17th, but I'm looking forward to hearing your input and comments this evening on this very important issue. I'll turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Barbara Owen Wesley.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We are very interested in hearing your input as we discuss housing choices and making some more attainable neighborhoods available in our city. I am Barbara Owen Wesley. I was first elected in 2019, re-elected in 2021, and I'm currently serving as chair of the Municipal Policy Committee, and that's the committee that will be making a recommendation on these choices to the full council for their approval. So looking forward to your input. Thank you for being here.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ruby Faye Woolridge, and I'm your at-large District 6 council member, and I'm honored to represent every person in this city, all 400,000 of us. I am your COVID council member. I was elected during COVID, which was quite an experience. And Victoria as well. We both campaigned during COVID. And were elected in November, which was unusual. But I'm excited about what we're going to present to you tonight because it shows that Arlington cares about housing and Arlington cares about offering opportunities for its residents. So grab a pad, a pencil, and paper and hold on.
So we're delighted so many of you have already joined this call tonight, and we know more of you will be joining us in. As you do, please make sure you do take those notes. Just for your information, again, this is Dr. Victoria Farmeyers. We have assembled here key leadership tonight, including our Deputy City Manager, Jennifer Wickman, and our Director of Planning and Development Services, Jincy Thopel, Assistant Director of Planning and Development Services, Richard Gertzen, and Principal Planner, Patricia Snell, to make sure we get your questions answered. Our time is tight, so I will turn things over to Ms. Snell to get started.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Good evening. My name is Patricia Snell, and I'm a Principal Planner with the City of Arlington's Planning and Development Services Department. The purpose of tonight's telephone town hall is to present the identified housing needs from adopted city plans and the possible solutions and tools to address residential infill, development, and redevelopment. It involves developing vacant or underused property in existing neighborhoods, and it can also involve redevelopment of properties, as well as providing additional housing choices and housing types in Arlington. This telephone town hall is part of the ongoing public engagement process so that the public can learn and weigh in on what residential infill, development, and redevelopment tools are available to create a greater range of housing choices, leading to more sustainable neighborhoods across the American Dream City. To start the public engagement process, City Council and staff hosted 3 open house sessions on March 10th, 2022, to allow the public an opportunity to weigh in on the appropriateness of the proposed tools presented tonight. A town hall meeting in Council District 1 was held on April 21st, and 4 more town halls are scheduled from now until the end of June. A bit of background information. The Unified Development Code is the regulations for land use and land use development in the City of Arlington. Our UDC is a single comprehensive document that is used as a primary guide for development within the city, including how a piece of land can be used, how a piece of land can be divided or combined, and as well as what design and development standards are required. The suggestions presented tonight, if approved by City Council, would result in changes to the Unified Development Code. So a bit of background now. Last summer, the City Council directed staff to review Arlington's development standards and to make recommendations. Staff began with reviewing Arlington's standards, plans, and reports, as well as researching best planning practices. A 10-person focus group was created to advise on removing barriers for residential infill developments and redevelopment. The focus group met 9 times and provided valuable insight to staff on the needs of residents, professionals, and builders in the City of Arlington. Among the proposals, first was to create a simplified administrative approval process to allow partial relief from existing standards for development and redevelopment on housing on small infill lots or irregularly shaped lots without having to go to City Council or the Zoning Board of Adjustment. What this means is if there's an odd-shaped lot and might not meet the minimum standards for development, this process would be simplified. Currently, applicants have to undergo a 4 to 6 month review and approval process, which can cost thousands of dollars, including the cost of the application fee, creation of plans, and regardless if their project is approved or not. Secondly, consider including additional housing types in Arlington. Triplexes, quadplexes, and cottage courtyards are currently not defined in the Unified Development Code. While duplexes and townhouses are defined and permitted in the residential medium density RM12 zoning district, the RM12 zoning district means 12 residential units are allowed maximum per acre. So, and as a result, we can look at creating 2 new zoning districts. The 2 districts are as follows. A new mixed residential, MR, district to promote and facilitate the development of residential neighborhoods with diverse housing types, as I mentioned beforehand, and walkable commercial uses that would increase attainable housing supply and provide more housing choices. And I would like to point out that traditional multifamily, or apartments, would not be permitted in an MR residential district. The second possible new zoning district would be a smaller single-family zoning district with a lot size smaller than the existing 5,000 square foot minimum. So these projects do not always have to require a PD for a planned development for approval of their zoning. This means that they would have to go to City Council in other cases. A third proposal is to encourage residential redevelopment, revitalization, and renewal of older areas and multifamily properties by allowing sites larger than 3 acres to utilize MR zoning standards. Now we get to the crux of this. The more controversial consideration has been about where duplexes and other housing types, such as triplexes and quadplexes, could be allowed in existing residential zoning districts, and whether it's appropriate only in certain overlays or in special districts, whether it is appropriate to have them as a transition or buffer between intensities and land uses, or between residential and industrial commercial uses, or limit them by the number on the street or neighborhoods, such as only on corner lots or 1 per block. The other controversial issue is consider allowing secondary living units in the RS 7.2 and RS 5 single-family zoning districts in the same manner as currently permitted in the RE, RS 20, and RS 15 single-family neighborhoods. A secondary living unit, also known as an SLU, or also known as an accessory dwelling unit, is a second single-family residential living unit located on the same lot as a primary living unit, which provides independent provisions for living or sleeping, cooking, and sanitation. Just for clarification, a mobile home or a HUD code manufactured home shall not be considered as an accessory secondary living unit. And lastly, determine if reducing the minimum living area, which is the square footage of a house, would be appropriate in residential zoning districts. Right now, minimum single-family residential square footages range from 2,500 in the residential estate zoning district to 1,500 square feet for the RS 7.2, RS 5, and RM 12 zoning districts. Now we will open the question and answer session. I am pleased to reintroduce Planning and Development Services Director Jency Topol and Assistant Director Richard Gertzen, and we will all be available to answer your questions.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your opening statements here and those updates. I want to, again, just remind folks in our audience, before we start with questions, just a reminder to go ahead and press 0 on your phone keypad to speak with an operator to submit what's on your mind tonight. You can also still press 7 to sign up for future email updates from the city. So with that, our first question here is coming to us from Tricia, and this one's going to be for you, Patricia. She's asking, do these options have to all be implemented, or could some of them be implemented? And again, that's coming from Tricia.
That's an excellent question, and that's a brilliant name, by the way. This is an excellent question, but we do not have to do one or the other. It's not an all or nothing approach. This can be piecemealed in. So choose the best, what you think is for the city of Arlington, and go from there.
All right, thank you so much. Really appreciate that answer. And now let's go ahead and take our first live caller of the night. I'd like to go ahead and welcome Brenda. Brenda, you are now live. Please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to know, where can I go in the city that would, because I'm paying a certain amount of rent, and they're selling the condos, like I said, that I live in. Now I have 4 months before my lease is up in September, and I'm in the process of looking for somewhere to go, and I certainly want, wherever I go, I want to be safe and I want to be warm at night. And I don't want to have to worry about somebody standing on the veranda smoking cigarettes and what have you. So I would like the city to send me some information on where can I go, and especially for my income.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Brenda. This is Jennifer Wickman. Thanks so much for your question. I know a lot of folks do. There is sometimes a wonder when we don't know where the place we're going to live is next, but I would encourage you to go to a couple places. You can look at our Arlington Housing Authority has a website that could have some resources for you, and that's arlingtonhousing.us. And then additionally, you can call our Action Center, which is 817-459-6777, and they can connect you with some folks there who might have some resources in terms of some properties that might be within your income range. But we appreciate your call. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Brenda, for joining the conversation tonight. Jennifer, while we have you here, I have our next question from Jane. Jane, you are now live on the line. Please go ahead with your question for Jennifer.
I would like to know if there's any way that they could put speed bumps on Highlander, which is by the Highlands. At night, well, all day long, it's like a racetrack, and there's never any police around, so I would hate to say how fast these kids or whoever it is are going.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your question. So if it's a matter of street racing, we would encourage you to go ahead and report that to the police, and you can call 911 for that, and so the police officers can report there to check that out. But questions about whether you can put speed bumps in, that would have to go through our Public Works and Transportation Department, and they have to study that area and see if that were warranted, whether it's speed bumps or something else. So we can get your information if you don't mind contacting. We can contact you later in the week, and we'll pass that along to our Public Works and Transportation Department. And they can call you and get some additional details on that. Thank you for your question. We appreciate that.
Yes, thank you so much, Jane. And let's see here. Let's go ahead and get to our next caller. I want to go ahead and introduce Tony. Tony, you are now live on the line. And Jennifer, we're going to keep you busy for right now, so this one's for you. Go ahead, Tony.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. My question, so it seems that this plan has already been implemented in Southeast Arlington. I live between Debbie Lane and Matlock and 360. And we recently became aware of townhouses that are going to be built, apartments that are going to be built, on top of the already multi-family unit apartment right behind the racetrack. And then there's already like a cluster of mini homes that are pretty much back-to-back along Debbie Lane, which, A, hasn't been widened enough. I know those are the plans, but what is this going to do to property value, property taxes, and on top of that, the congestion that we already experience along Debbie Lane headed towards 360 in the morning?
So thanks for your question, Tony. We appreciate that. And I will also offer the council members, after I finish a little bit, if they want to answer as well. But those, the council looks very closely at all the cases that come before it, and particularly the ones that are asking for a tax exemption. And they have approved very few, and none of the ones that are in your area down there that you're describing are off the tax rolls. They're all paying full property taxes to support not only the city, but the school district and the other taxing entities that give services to all the folks who live in Arlington. So we do have that happening. Additionally, traffic studies are conducted. I think our planning and development services staff, they do that. It's part of what the cases look at. It's part of what planning and zoning considers, and also part of what city council considers. And then I'll just offer to the council members if you want to relate whether it's important to you when you're looking at those or not.
Well, it's important to me. This is Ruby Faye Wolvers, District 6, and I'm speaking out because we are looking at Debbie Lane, and it will be widened in the future. All these factors were taken into account when we approved additional housing in that area. So we are monitoring how many multi-units are being built there. We're also looking at the condos that are coming in because they are for sale. They're not for rent. So we are really watching what's going on in your area, and we value your concerns, and we're taking them into account as we go forward.
This is Victoria Farr-Myers. I'd also add that there's a 360 corridor study that has just been completed by our planning staff. And in that, there's a lot of additional detail. Tony, I would encourage you to, it's on arlingtontx.gov if you want to look up the 360 corridor study. It will give you a lot of information regarding that area. As my fellow councilperson indicated, Debbie Lane will be widened, and there's a lot of things that are been articulated and in the planning cycle, so I would encourage you to look at that as well.
Thank you for your question, Tony. This is Barbara Odom Wesley, and the only thing that I would add is that we have to consider the growth of our city and of our area. The DFW area is the third fastest growing metroplex in the country. So as we add jobs and we attract more citizens to Arlington, it's important that we have adequate housing for entry-level employees as well as for the executives in the C-suite. So your city council is looking at all of that demand and trying to anticipate the growth and then be ready for the growth. So that's why you're seeing all of this development in your particular area. Thank you again for calling in.
And thank you all so much for your insight here on this question for Tony. Tony, thanks so much for joining the conversation here tonight. I want to go ahead and welcome our next caller. We have Linda on the line with her question. Linda, you are live. Please go ahead.
Yes, my question is this something that the City Council has already decided upon, or is this going to be placed up for a vote by the citizens of Arlington or the residents of Arlington?
Jennifer?
Hi, Linda.
We're going to go with Dr. Farr-Myers on this one. Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you, Taylor. Hi, Linda. This is Dr. Victoria Farr-Myers of Arlington City Council, Place 7. This is just in the concept phase. We have had a series. Our first town hall was in District 1. We are holding this one tonight, and then all of our other districts, our 4 remaining districts, will have a town hall as well. We're seeking input from you about, as Patricia talked about earlier, what are the pieces and parts that you like the most? What do you not like? What are the concerns that you have? And how are we going to proceed forward? There's been no decisions whatsoever made by council members. In fact, we're using this input to help us better inform our decision-making going forward. So very much appreciate your question and appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you for the question, Linda. This is Barbara Odom Wesley, and I would just add that we have been discussing this issue since April of 2021, and we are looking for input, and we're looking at all sides of the issue. We, as was reported earlier by our principal planner, we had a focus group of citizens that met 5 times, nine times, looking at the issue, and our council committee, municipal policy, has been studying the issue. Then we started with the focus groups. Now we're having telephone town halls, and then it will go through our normal planning process through City Council, through Planning and Zoning, before we make a final decision. It will not go to the citizens for a vote, so this is your opportunity to let us know what your preferences are. Thank you for calling in, Linda.
Thank you all so much.
Oh,
yes,
I have one other thing. Hello? Are you done?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, all right. This is Ruby Faye Woolridge. I just wanted to share that this is my second town hall, and I want to encourage all the residents that are on the call to please attend the next one. And I believe it is going to be Thursday.
Correct, and that's District 2.
That's District 2, and the place is
Cliff Nelson.
Cliff Nelson Recreation Center at 6 o'clock, and it's coming up this Thursday, I believe.
Correct.
Okay, also, you will get to make your mark about what you want. We will pass out some little stickers, and you can make your point on the boards that we will bring so that you can have direct input into what you like, what you don't like. We will listen and be guided by the residents' input on everything we do in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Let's go ahead, and before we take our next question, I want to just announce for everyone who is listening, you may have received an alert from the city regarding, it's actually a question for our audience tonight. Are you interested in serving your community by recommending potential projects for an upcoming bond program? The Citizens Bond Committee will be made of 19 City Council appointed residents who will review projects for a bond program that could be presented to voters in May of 2023. Members will meet weekly each Thursday from August 18th to October 6th, 2022. and applications are due May 31st. To learn more about the Citizens Bond Committee, go ahead and download the application at www.arlingtontexas.gov/CBC. And again, that website's www.arlingtontx.gov/CBC. So thank you all for your interest in this. And we're going to get to some more important information here during the call. I want to also give another reminder that if you have a question, that you can press 0 on your phone keypad to talk with an operator and get those submitted tonight. Now let's go ahead and get our next question in here. This one's coming to us from Patty. Patty's asking, does this have anything to do with short-term rentals? Great question there, Patty.
Personnel Principal Planner. I want to let you know, Patty, that housing in any of these proposals cannot be used for short-term rentals, except we're allowed by the city's short-term rental chapter. So the intention is no, none of these proposals will be able to hopefully increase the short-term rentals unless they're allowed already by the short-term rental chapter of the Code of Ordinances. But thank you again for your question.
All right, and moving right along here, we have our next caller, Robert, who would like me to read his question over the air as well. He's asking, is there a way to listen to a recording of this presentation? Looks like he missed the very beginning of all the presentations and doesn't really fully understand what's going on. Robert, we really appreciate your question. Andy, do you have an answer here for Robert?
Yes. Hi, Robert. This is Andy from the Mayor's office, and these sessions are recorded and we'll post them on our webpage. I think Jennifer had something to add also.
Yeah, and I'll just say, Robert, generally we have the presentation was about redevelopment and residential infill, so like how different types of housing could possibly go in new spaces in different parts of the city. That's generally what we're talking about, but we're also answering some general questions that are coming from the public, so that may be why some of the things maybe seem more on topic, and then some of the things, but we're trying to get to just to make sure we answer folks' questions. But thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Robert. And let's go ahead and get our next question up here. This one comes to us from Hamid in North Arlington. Hamid, you are live. Go ahead.
Hi. My name is Hamid. I'm a resident at Filder and Norwood, or 2nd Street. Recently, maybe a year or two ago, you guys put a roundabout on Norwood and Westwood Street, and without any consideration for possibility of accident that is going to be created by that roundabout, because the signage is totally confusing. It has a yield sign, but it doesn't have, the enforcement is very little. And we shouldn't wait until the severe accident happens before we do something about it. I made a recommendation to the person who was taking the message that either put a 4-way stop sign there or somehow light up the yield sign that people can actually notice it. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your input, Hamid. We're going to pass that along to our Public Works and Transportation Department. I do know roundabouts are something we've been using more and more in the city. They do help a great deal with traffic flow, but I do understand your point that folks aren't as used to that, so we're hoping some education and perhaps, as you said, some signage can help with that. But we'll look at the one that you mentioned and have them check into that. So thanks so much for your input, and we appreciate knowing about that.
All right. Thank you so much, Hamid. Let's get our next question here. This next one comes to us from Tommy. Tommy, you're now live on the line. Go ahead.
This is Tommy. I'd like to know that y'all have right now addressing the housing bill. I've been in my apartment for 15 years, and I would love to buy a house and take advantage of this program that y'all have. Could y'all speak on somebody like me in my position and how I can use this program that y'all have, or any other options that I can take in the process of trying to buy a house?
Thanks, Tommy. I think this is Jennifer Wickman again. I think that your question was about maybe if the city has any programs to help folks buy homes. if maybe their income might not allow them to do that otherwise. And our housing authority actually does have two different programs, and one is called the Arlington Home Ownership Assistance Program, and the other one is a mortgage credit program, and they're both run through our housing authority, and some of that comes through our Housing Finance Corporation, which also has been putting some additional resources towards helping people just like you to own a home. But you can get more details if you go to the Housing Authority website, and that's at www.arlingtonhousing.us. And if that doesn't work, you can also call the Action Center, which is 817-459-6777, and they can hopefully connect you, get you that resource, and maybe also connect you with some of that information. But it is certainly focused on folks just like yourself who might need a little bit of help but do want to become homeowners. So I know that's something that's very important to our city council. They've worked very hard to get those resources out there and to promote those programs. Thank you so much for the call.
Yes, thank you, Tommy. Let's get our next question here from Regina. Regina, you are live. Please go ahead with your question regarding senior citizen living.
Thank you, ladies. My question may go toward everybody on the panel. I've been trying to downsize from a 3-bedroom rental home to a senior citizen. I'm one of the baby boomers, and now most of us are all seniors. I'm having a problem of getting one for the low income, or either according to your income. And can you tell me if any of the properties that you're planning on having built will consider the people with the average, and with the Social Security, and then my husband, for instance, a part-time job, so it's still not enough. But I'm trying to find out how can we get, I'm on a waiting list, as a matter of fact, for a senior citizen, and it's been 2 or 3 years. Will there be any more apartments for senior citizens with low income being built?
So that's something that the council has to deal with on sort of a case-by-case basis. All the housing that comes to them is built by developers who come in and propose to the council, and every time they see one of those, they have to evaluate it on its merits. They are aware that there are all sorts of folks who are in your position who do have a challenge with finding housing, and they try to address that. They balance all those needs as they look at the proposals that come before them. As you may be aware, this housing is sort of a large issue that all sorts of folks are having a challenge with. And so we hope that you stay on that wait list for sure, and hopefully one of those opportunities comes available. But it's just a matter of what the market brings to council and kind of what they can then approve based on what's going to be a good use of that space. And I think Ms. Woolridge also has something she wants to add.
Well, I'm aware of a property on Eden Road in Cooper, I believe, called Mariposa, that is for seniors. And so you may inquire there. They're brand new. I'm not sure if they're fully complete, but they're close to completion. So that's a good avenue to pursue for housing.
Thanks so much for your question, Regina.
All right, moving along here, just want to give another reminder that if you still have questions that you want to ask tonight, go ahead and press 0 on your phone keypad. Also tonight, you still have the option to press 7 if you haven't done so already to sign up for future email updates from the city. So again, that's pressing 0 for a question and 7 for those future email updates. Now let's go ahead and get this next question here from Patricia. You are now live on the line. Please go ahead, Patricia.
Yes, I live in 76018 area code. And my question is, why do we have to be filling in every single area that's not developed? Why is it something that we have to do? This is the Dream City. And to me, the Dream City is a city which would live with commercial activities and as well as family. And it seems like there isn't any place other than the Blackland area next to Bowie High School that has been preserved. Why can we not preserve? Why does every inch have to be developed?
Panel, just in case you didn't hear, did you hear Patricia's question okay?
If you could repeat that, Taylor, that'd be great.
Yeah, so just for everyone listening in as well, Patricia was asking, why do we have to have all of the underused pieces of land developed? She's wondering, can we designate some open space areas instead of filling in all of the open spaces? So go ahead, panel.
This is Jim C. I'll try to answer this question. So yeah, we do not have to use all of the underused pieces of land. It doesn't have to be developed, but many of those might be private properties, and the private property owners will decide what they want to do with it. However, we do have our Parks and Recreation Department actually look at the entire city and the services that parks needs to provide to the citizens. So they do have a parks master plan, and they designate certain areas or certain open spaces that city will then purchase for park development. So that's how we try to make sure that every district and every area have enough open space areas for park development. Thank you for the question, Patricia.
Yes, thanks so much, Patricia. We have another question here from Shirley, and I'm going to go ahead and read hers as well. She's asking, is there somewhere that I can access all of the information being discussed in this call tonight? Also, it sounds like, what percentage of secondary buildings will you all redevelop as opposed to turning the land into a green space?
This is Jim C. again. I'll try to answer a part of this question definitely. So all of this information can be accessed on the Planning and Development Services website. So if you go to arlingtontx.gov and go to the Planning and Development Services Department, you can access all of this information related to residential infill and redevelopment projects. What percentage of secondary buildings? Nothing has been decided yet. Again, as mentioned in the beginning, all of the proposals are opened and are options for you all to give us feedback on. We will receive your feedback, go back to council, and that's where we'll get some more direction. So this is the right time for you all to give us more feedback. Thank you for the question, Shirley.
Yes, thank you, Shirley, for joining us here as well. Let's go ahead and get our next caller here. We have Jessica. Jessica, you're now live. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Jessica. I'm calling from District 2. And the parts of this proposal that concern me the most are the parts that would impact established residential neighborhoods or single-family neighborhoods. So I actually have two questions. One is, we do not have an HOA, but we do have speed restrictions that run with the land. They dictate the percentage of the home having to be mason or stone, and also prohibit street-facing garage. So if a developer were to tear down a single-family home and build a duplex, would they have to comply with those, is my first question. And then my second question is, if duplexes and accessory dwelling units are allowed by right, could someone conceivably build a duplex and an accessory dwelling unit on the same lot?
Jessica, this is Richard Gertson, the Assistant Director of Planning and Development Services. Let me start with your question about deed restrictions. The deed restrictions are something that those property owners that are in common or that have those restrictions in place can enforce. So someone wishing to build on a lot in your area that is subject to those deed restrictions would have to comply with those restrictions. Now, the City of Arlington does not enforce those restrictions. We are not allowed to do that under Texas law. But you all, as property owners that are subject to those deed restrictions, may do that. With respect to the question about tearing down and building a duplex, really the first question is whether or not a duplex is to be allowed in a single-family zoning district. Currently, they are not permitted, and that will not change unless the city council, as a part of this process, makes that change. Finally, the question having to do with an accessory dwelling unit. The options being considered would allow an accessory dwelling unit on some properties, perhaps not all. Once again, there are many ways to look at that question, and it's not a one-size-fits-all, but generally speaking, the accessory dwelling unit is limited to a parcel with a single dwelling unit on it, and not multiple dwelling units. So I hope I've responded. Thank you, Jessica, for your question.
Yes, thank you so much, Jessica. Again, appreciate you joining the conversation here tonight. With that, I want to go ahead and just read another important announcement. So for everybody listening in here, you may have received an alert from the city regarding weather updates and delays or changes to weekly garbage and recycling collection. This is a part of our new community notification system, Code Red. So Code Red helps the city connect with residents via phone calls, emails, and text messages during public health and safety situations, garbage and recycling updates, and much more. So this is a free service to all Arlington residents and businesses. And to sign up to receive free notifications from the city's community notification system, you can text Arlington, it's all capital letters, you can text Arlington to 99411. And you can also search Code Red at www.arlingtontx.gov to learn some more. So again, I just want to repeat that. To sign up to receive those free notifications from the city's community notification system, you can text all capital letters Arlington to 99411. And again, you can also search Code Red at www.arlingtontx.gov to learn more. So thanks, everyone. Our next caller here is Jill. I'd like to go ahead and welcome her on the line here. So Jill, welcome. Please go ahead with your question.
Good afternoon. I would like to know if the city has a way of letting the citizens of Arlington know what their current zoning district is with a good description and the proposed zoning districts that your presentation has been outlined tonight.
On our website that gives good description of all the zoning districts. So if you go to arlingtontx.gov and type in Unified Development Code in the search bar, you should be able to pull up the Unified Development Code. And then in Article 2 of that chapter is where you will find all the description related to those zoning districts. Now, if you want to locate your address on a map and find out which zoning district you are located in, then you do have, again, on the same website, arlingtontx.gov, if you just type in interactive zoning map, you should be able to open up the map that allows you to add your address in there under the property search button. And then once you get there, then you will see what your zoning district is. I think it answers your question. Thank you so much, Jill.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate you, Jill, for joining us here tonight. Let's get our next question in from Jane. Jane, you're now live. Go ahead, please. Jane in Southeast Arlington, we have you on the line.
Hello.
Hi, Jane. Go ahead with your question, please.
Well, I don't have a question. I have a comment, and I'd just like to say hands off our neighborhoods. I mean, the reason we bought into a single-family neighborhood was because we did not want to live in a multifamily zoned neighborhood, and people have their life savings invested in their communities, and now you stack a focus group with developers, investors, and realtors, and they're going to swoop in and buy up multiple properties to change
what we've known, and I don't want bulldozers next door bulldozing my neighbors' houses down to build multifamily. I think this is egregious to get rid of. I mean, this is essentially just getting rid of single-family neighborhoods is what it's doing. And if, they want to develop on undeveloped land, fine, get approval to do that, but do not touch the neighborhoods that are already zoned single-family. And I have a lot more to say, but I'm not going to say it at this time. But this is the most egregious thing the city has ever tried to do. And I think who backed that focus group should be fired because they're conspiring to take our neighborhoods away from us. This is like insanity. And everyone I have spoken to is not happy about this at all. So I will be writing to my council and attending future town halls. This needs to stop. This needs to stop. Full stop.
Thanks so much for your comments, Jane. I did want to mention that something that maybe hasn't come up, but I did hear Patricia say it in her presentation, is that none of the recommendations that were made by the focus group have anything to do with multifamily, so that part wouldn't be happening. But we do hear you that you don't want this sort of changes into a single-family neighborhood, and that's certainly one of the options that's before council. And so none of this has been decided. The focus group has had a series of recommendations that they've put forward. So there's a continuum between that and doing nothing. And so I think the council is just seeking input from the public, people like yourself. I'm just making sure we can make all the different choices clear, and then they can choose the right ones that they feel will suit the community. But again, we appreciate yours and everyone else's input. I know the council members are taking that very seriously, and we'll take that into account as they move forward on this important issue. So thanks so much for your input.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jane. Let's go ahead and get our next caller up here. We have Cheryl. Cheryl, go ahead. You're now live.
Okay. I have several questions. One of them does go to the focus group. I was wondering if any of these members have some affiliation with the concept of build to rent. I would think that the council would want to facilitate affordable housing for seniors, and some of the other adjectives that I've heard, attainable, healthy, and sustainable. But I question, under the guise of helping people, that they would not be facilitating home ownership, because we all know that home ownership in the long run is a cheaper option for people. And so this is what I would think that the council should try to facilitate, and not a build to rent model, if that's what this might help out with. Now, also, if the standard for these multifamily homes, duplexes, triplexes, quadruplexes, are in any way lower than a person who wants to build a single family home, I question whether or not that's appropriate. I also wonder about how small does the square footage requirement go? We actually are on a residential lot that's 7.2, which means 7,200 square feet is the minimum. No, 1,500 is. The lot has to be 7,200, but the structure has to be 1,500. How low is it going to go? I think that it's a good idea to try and help people afford homes, but there's different ways to do that. The apartment buildings are great for transitional, but it may be that a senior needs to downsize to something that accommodates their time of life. So is it going to be required that a builder that says that this is for a senior, it's going to be have a bedroom that's on a first floor if they're making 2 stories? There's a development down the street here on Kelly Elliott. When I called about questions, when the zoning was being considered to be changed, I was told it was for seniors. Well, if something's for a senior, it should accommodate the needs of that person through the end of their life. That means wide doors. That means, you don't have a problem getting around with a wheelchair. It means that it's not going to be expensive to live in it. It's one thing to attain something. It's another thing to be able to maintain living there. Are you going to make it insulated well enough that they don't have to have high electric bills to stay in there and be comfortable? And the idea that it facilitates this process, that I would think that the city has a reason for the prescriptive way in which they are, processing whether or not somebody can be on the odd-shaped lot or not. Why would you lower the standard, yet have a higher standard for someone who wants to build a single-family home? So, the devil's in the details. When this development down the street, they built 55 units. They were they're quadruplexes and triplexes. 9 of those units have a bedroom downstairs, yet I was told that they're supposed to be for seniors. So this kind of thing needs to be, truth in advertising needs to be regulated. If it's truly for seniors, what are the characteristics that make it viable for a senior? If it's,
Yeah, Cheryl, you've had so many great questions, and we want to try to answer as many as we can tonight. Panel, do we have some answers here so far that we can share for Cheryl?
I'm going to take one part of the question, and then Patricia is going to take the next part of the question. The last part that you asked about the odd-shaped lot, let's discuss that first. So, yes, we do have some options put out in the presentation about odd-shaped lots that are difficult to develop at this point. It may be just the shape of the lot, or it has hindrances such as floodplain on one side or something like that. So if somebody wants to develop that lot today, because it does not meet the literal standards of that zoning district, they may be asked to move through a rezoning of a planned development route, and that means they have to have all the plans ready and everything just to get the zoning entitlement for that one house. And so that's where the developments get more expensive because they're going through a 4 to 5 month process for rezoning and the cost associated with that. So that's one way of making it more flexible and easier for them to build. Patricia, you want to take the next one?
Yes. Hey, Cheryl, this is Patricia. We spoke a couple weeks ago, and I enjoyed the conversation with you. And one of the things we did talk about was housing for seniors. And the ability to have smaller houses on smaller lots also leads into more senior housing, as well as perhaps having more accessory dwelling units to allow that multi-generational housing so more seniors can stay next to their families or even in the same neighborhoods that they currently live in. You do have a concern about standards, and if those design and development standards would be the same as single-family residential units. One of the things, they would be the same or higher standards if these standards were created and if they were approved by council. You did have a question about the minimum house size. GINSI established that. Right now in the RS 7.2 zoning district, the minimum housing size is 1,500 square feet. And there's not we've had a question, too, about if it goes smaller, are we looking at tiny homes? And I know, Cheryl, you and I talked about that tiny homes are established at 399 square feet and under, and this is hopefully not to implement tiny homes in Arlington. But, Cheryl, I enjoyed talking to you, and please don't hesitate to give me a call.
Thank you so much, and really appreciate all of your questions here, Cheryl. However, it looks like we have reached our allotted time that we had with everyone tonight, and we did answer as many questions as we could. I want to thank our panel and also those of you who have submitted questions. At this time, I'd like to ask 2 of our council members to please just say a few closing comments, starting with District 8 Council Member Barbara Odom Wesley. Barbara?
Thank you very much, Taylor, and thank you to all of our citizens who called in. This is what we need. We need to hear your input. We need to hear your concerns. And as we mentioned earlier, we have 4 more town halls that are going to be held in each one of the council districts. District 1 has already been held, and we'll have town halls in districts 2, 3, 4, and 5. 2 is this Thursday, as was announced earlier. And in addition to the in-person town hall, we will be posting an online survey. so that you can vote on the various provisions. How do they find that, Patricia?
If you go to the Planning and Development Services website, there's a button that says Residential Infill and Development, and there will be a survey posted tomorrow just based on this town hall, where it's asked all the questions that you will also have an opportunity to vote on at any of the town hall meetings that you choose to go to.
Thank you, Patricia, and thank you again for calling in. Again, those town hall meetings are this Thursday, May the 12th, Tuesday, May 31st, Thursday, June 9th, and Tuesday, June 21st. After that, the Municipal Policy Committee will receive all their input, make a recommendation to the City Council. City Council then will vote and make a recommendation to the direction that we follow. I want to introduce Councilmember Ruby Woolridge to give us some closing remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Barbara Oda Wesley. This is Ruby Faye Woolridge, and I'm District 6 representative on the Arlington City Council. You're a large member. And I'm excited to hear all the questions that have come in, because it lets me know that you're listening, you're concerned, and you're committed to making sure Arlington is the Kansas City. But what we're trying to do here is address our housing issues that are cropping up because of our rapid growth. And so we are taking in everything that you're saying, and we're highly encouraging you to please come to our town hall so that you can say what you need to say, so that you can get one of the red, green, or yellow stickies that we have, and you stick it on our board and let us know. You can stick it to us and let us know how you feel personally about what's being presented. We'll take all that information in, and then we'll make an informed decision from you, the residents. We're not voting on anything without your input, without your representation. We're doing the best we can for you, and we thank you for your commitment to giving us your time this evening to be a part of this. I serve on the Community and Neighborhood Development Committee, and we're also looking at this because these are our neighborhoods. You're in them, and we want to make sure that you feel safe and you have the best possible property values and you have the best possible quality of life. Thanks again for calling in and being a part of the Teletown Hall meeting.